Hi guys, this is Shayna from YumiYarns.com. We've got the second video today in our basic cuff down sock tutorials. If you watch the first video, you'll know I'm using Suburban Stitcher yarn, and this is her clean slate colorway in her sock yarn, which she was nice enough to send to me so we could do these tutorials. And I've got my cast on my needles. If you don't know how to do this, check the previous video for a long tail cast on or the link for the German twisted cast on. I'll link both those below this video for you. I'm using flexi flip needles, so I only have 3. You can also use this tutorial to do double pointed needles or magic loop or whatever method you're comfortable with. So I'm doing a 64 stitch sock for the tutorial, and I have all of my stitches cast on and divided amongst my needles, and that's where we left off on the last tutorial. So today we're going to join these together to work in the round, and then we're going to do the ribbing, which is just a basic 1x1 ribbing. These are, like I said, very basic socks because I want you guys to learn kind of what's going on as opposed to trying to figure out a pattern or anything like that while you go. So as you can see, I've got my working yarn over my left hand. My tail is here, and I'm going to slide these stitches because this is not the needle that the yarn is coming off. I'm going to slide these towards the end of the needle so they're ready to work. I can have mine scrunched down there so they wouldn't fall off in between filming. There we go. So they are ready to go. With the flexi flips, this one will stay on the curved edge so that it's more workable. It kind of takes the place of 2 double pointed needles this way. And then this is the needle that I'll be working off of. But we need to connect them first. So the very first thing you want to do is kind of hold them out flat like this, or lay it out on a table maybe if you're brand new at this, because you want to make sure that your stitches aren't twisted around. So see how that little ridge along the inside here is all the way along the inside. It's not like flipped around the needle like that. You can see how it's twisted around the needle that way. That will give you a weird thing that is not a sock. So we're gonna flip that back, make sure that your stitches are not twisted, that everything's going the way it should be. And then we are just simply going to knit into the very first stitch on this open end that isn't connected to the yarn yet. If you want, you can put a marker at this point. I usually just use the tail because I have either this part or this part that could possibly be the start of my sock, and the start that has the tail, or the part that has the tail, is going to be my start. So I just use that in place of a beginning of a round marker most of the time when I'm working a basic sock. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit for you guys. And we're going to work into this very first stitch. And it can be a little bit tight and a little bit fiddly. That's okay, just get your needle in there and knit your first stitch. Most patterns will have you knitting the very first stitch, but sometimes you'll get a pattern that has you purling first or doing something else, so just pay attention to your pattern. And that is it. That's how you join to work in the round. Because now we can just knit in a circle all the way around without stopping, which is kind of one of the best parts. So for this one, we're doing a 1x1 rib. So that means you're going to knit 1 stitch and purl 1 stitch, and then knit 1 stitch and then purl 1 stitch, all the way around. So since I just did a knit stitch, I'm going to bring my yarn to the front and do my purl stitch, slide that off, and we're going to do a knit stitch and a purl stitch, And we're just going to keep going around and around, depending on how long your pattern tells you to knit your cuff. With this pattern, with the basic pattern, for most of the kids' sizes, you're going to be doing a 1/2 inch of ribbing. But for the adult sizes, I tend to go for closer to 1 inch of ribbing. So, like I said, that pattern that we're working off of here, it's a free pattern that we'll be releasing at yumiyarns.com on January 13th. And that will just be out there for anybody who would like a basic sock pattern to try out. I did not release it ahead of time because I would rather you learn the techniques than give you a pattern to jump into and have you get confused. So there we go. So that's how we're going to do our cuff. You can kind of see the start of the ribbing there, where it's every other stitch. So you just continue in that fashion where you knit 1, purl 1 all the way around. You just keep going. Once you get to the beginning of the round, you just keep going until your fabric measures the length that it says to do your cuff. But yeah, so that is it. Pretty simple today. I'll be back tomorrow with our next tutorial, which will be knitting the leg of our sock. And that one will be, again, pretty simple, but you know, if you're brand new at this, it's kind of nice to have somebody walking you through what's going on and why. Till then, I hope you guys have a great day and happy knitting.